each other. We did the American tour. You know, you brought me to America.
That was in the 70s.
Yeah. But the 1870s.
1870s, right. I need a box or something to stand
a
on.
box. Get a box. What can we get?
Okay, I'm going to talk to Nick, all right?
All right.
Okay. You know what I think is so interesting right now, because your dad's films are surfacing on Facebook everywhere.
Yeah.
Black and white, very British, like British. And I just think it's amazing to see that, because your dad would have been the decade before me.
Right.
So when I look at hairdressing and how hairdressing progressed, I have to look at it from when I started. So I see how they did the pin curls and the mirror, and over here we had to do everything perfect.
Right.
So the hair had to be in the center of the pin curl. Each pin curl had to be a different size, flat, and all that stuff. Yeah. So I can see the progress from your dad's period to the next period, and then of course now you're a superstar. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny, Dwight, because I've got a course I designed called Back to the Future, because they asked me, the hairdressing company I'm associated with, you know, what you're really passionate about. And recently I've been passionate about the past and bringing it to today in a modern and a fresh way. Just beautiful, lovely, clean hair, you know, the way they used to do hair. And a friend of mine, Darren Stork, discovered 37 new films of Freddie working. So that's huge. I only had 8.
I've seen about a dozen of them, I think.
Yeah, 37 films we have.
Wow.
And the last one, a young kid was saying, you know what, Nick, I've got this great idea. I put this up to and I pin it, and then I sew all the hair together, then I take the pins out. It's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, because you were sewing hair when
hang on a minute.
When you first came over.
But my dad has that on film from 1958.
Wow.
So I showed this kid the film as I pressed the button. I said, what was that? 1958. That's when my father invented that, and he had it on film. Amazing.
Because I started in '64.
Yeah.
And all my teachers were from the '50s. They were finger waving champions and all this kind of stuff.
That's right, yeah.
So each period, each period they perfect something, they learn something, and you take that to the next period, and then, from the pin curls, finger waving, then to the roller setting and back combing, and then to the sassoon cutting, and it goes on.
On and on and on, which is fantastic. And I think that you've got to seek different techniques, you've got to seek different hairstyles, and it's quite challenging to do anything new, and I think that's why, avant-garde is quite important, because avant-garde takes you to a different place. It's like flying to a different planet.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But from that journey, you can learn how to do different finishes on hair, possibly, how to do different textures, how to do different styles, different silhouettes. And I think we've got to do more of that to be more innovative, creative, and in the moment, and to do something that's fresh. I think whatever you do is going to be fresh and in the moment. It's something hairdressers can use and cut the time down of doing hair, because time is money. And that's one of the biggest problems with dress work. It takes a long time unless you have technique.
Right.
Because, technique, it stays the same, but fashion is fleeting. But you have to have the techniques in your pocket so you can bring them out.
Yeah, it seems to me that each period they perfected something.
Yeah.
And that becomes a foundation. So the pin curls and finger waving of the early 60s, when they really perfected it, and when Pivot Point had all the scientific things, the roller setting and the way to back home and all that crap, and then the sassoon thing. Even sassoons was 4 periods.
Yeah.
From the geometrics to the layering, and then to the new graduation, which I call it. Yeah. And then Daryl was cutting holes in the hair, and they were cutting V's in the hair, and they were all cut perfect. And then, of course, now you just whack it up. But, but each one of those things were a foundation, and it's something new. And then you have all that. You always have that underneath you, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then you can be. Then you start experimenting.
Experimenting is good. I was experimenting, and I went to one of my niece's son is at Eton with a scholarship for art, and at the age of 13 he went to have the interview, and he said there's 2 artists from the Master in Eton, this very posh school, and he said, well, who are you inspired by? He said, you don't understand art. He said that to the master. He's 13. You don't understand art, man. It's really cool. He says, it's Damien Hirst, yeah, and Jackson Pollock. It's 2 people. Jackson Pollock's house is 25 minutes from my house. So I heard that, I thought, ooh. So I went down to investigate. Ramiro, this Mexican painter, did all these drawings before he did his painting. Even Picasso did these drawings before he did his painting. And what he did, basically, Jackson Pollock in the 50s, he said art should be something in the moment. So he said, to hell with that, and he got this canvas, and he got some house paint, put pigment in it, and he threw it, and he threw it, and he drizzled it, and he dripped it, and he did this and that and the other. And that was all done, okay? And then people said, you're crazy, you're mad, but he made a huge breakthrough. To that point, I went home, I got horse's hair, and I cut it and I threw it on the table, and I threw it all different colours and stuff like that, and I glued it together with a spray glue, and I put the diffuser on it, then I got the paint, this is the fun bit, and I threw it like this. Imagine Carol's face. What do you think? I threw it like that, drizzled it and everything. I dried it, and guess what happened? I cut it into shapes, very fine, and it came out, it looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. Wow. So I used it, and I've had outfits actually made out of it, and I actually make that live to show people how you find somewhere to take the next level, you know? But I mean, you can't glue people's hair together, but these are my models here. Anyway, they've got to go and get undressed in a minute, right. So you're the best. And while you're here, kids, this man here was the reason I have a job, because he invented a thing called artistic directors. Seriously, yeah? Because he actually was the artistic director of Matrix, the first one, who actually developed Honorees, who was the man who founded it, fought with him to get the whole concept of education and supporting the professional hairdresser with a product company, which is great. So and he's a great friend. He's the first man who brought me to America, you know? I remember him sleeping on my floor in London. He had this long ponytail, all brown. And we toured America.
They don't ponytail anymore.
And he said, okay, Nick, we're going to go to all these salons. I'd never really been here much. And he said, you do the hairstyling, man, I'll do the hair cutting. We were salon in the morning, it was at salon in the middle, salon in the evening, you know? It was pretty amazing. But, you know, most of the salons were owned by women. He seemed to know them all. But that was interesting. He said, I'm not right. No. Thank you, Dwight.